Okay, we are back from executive session, and we'll begin the public session of the Board of Governors of the California Community Colleges. We will start by a roll call.
Hildegard Aguinaldo. Darius Anderson.
Here.
Arnaldo Avalos.
Here.
Jeffrey Baum.
Here.
Connie Conway.
Here.
Amy Costa.
Here.
Tom Epstein.
Here.
Jolena Grande.
Here.
Pamela Haynes.
Here.
Kevin Hall.
Here.
Jennifer Perry.
Here.
Mon Fawn.
Here.
Bill Rawlings.
Here.
Valerie Shaw.
Here.
Blas Villalobos.
Here.
Alexander Walker Griffin.
Here.
Alexis Zaragoza.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay, we need to do the Pledge of Allegiance. Member Fawn, would you lead us?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Before we do the President's report, there are some announcements regarding the agenda. There's an amendment to item 2.1, contracts and grants. Board members should have the new version at your desk, and there are hard copies for the public, and staff will describe the changes during the presentation. Also, item 3.3, resolution for California Community College Month, is an action item that is in the wrong section of your printed agenda. If there are no objections, we will take the item up as part of the action items portion. Anybody have a problem with that? And just as a reminder, members of the public may provide public testimony in conjunction with board discussion on each item as it comes up. Persons wishing to make a presentation on a subject that's not on the agenda may do so during the time listed for public comment at the end of the agenda, and a written request card must be made to the board before they are speaking. So with that, the President's report, I just have a couple of things. One is that we went back to Washington and had a very successful trip back there. I want to thank the Chancellor and his staff and Ajita and Vice Chancellor Mattoon for their help in putting that together. We got to see a lot of people, and as usual, it was quite a circus in D.C. while we were there. And the weather was bad. I also, Member Perry and Member Rawlings and I had a nice visit at LA Mission College a couple weeks ago. I want to thank them for a wonderful time, and you guys can talk about it at the end if you like. But the one comment I did want to make, as you can see on today's agenda, we will be voting on regulations to virtually eliminate the standardized test for students to take for placement in classes at community colleges, which I think is a great thing. And I can't help but notice the news of last week about some wealthy parents helping to falsify their own children's standardized tests to help them get into college. And I just want to observe that our Chancellor has been beating the drum and advocating for the elimination of these standardized tests in college admissions. I think this is about as powerful an evidence as you could ever have of why he's right, and I support that, and I hope that we can continue to spread the word on that issue. With that, I will turn it over to the Chancellor.
Thank you, Board President Epstein, and I certainly will do everything I can to beat the drum as hard as I can. But I do have a few items I think are important for the board to be aware of and for the public to be aware of, so I'm going to take a few minutes, although I will be as brief as possible. First, I want to recognize some recent work. On March 7th, the California Community Colleges released the Real College Survey. This was done, this was commissioned by the Chancellor's Office with funding provided by the legislature, as well as support from the Community College League of California and the Institute for College Access and Success. The Hope Center, led by Dr. Sarah Goldrick-Rab, issued this report. And I think it's worth taking a moment to note what came as a result of this report. I think it's worth taking a moment to internalize the results, which scratch the surface of what kind of challenges our students are dealing with. So the report focused on the scope of food and housing insecurities that affect the California community colleges and our students. And in particular, how we can develop interventions and solutions to support the system. Nearly 40,000 students at 57 California community colleges participated in the survey. Highlighted some of the results found were that 50% were food insecure during the prior 30 days. 50% of those surveyed. 60% were housing insecure in the previous year, and 19% experienced homelessness in the previous year. The report found significant variations across the regions of the state, with the far north, again, that area of the state north of us here in Sacramento, the far north seeing the highest rates of food and housing insecurity, followed closely by the Central Valley and the Inland Empire. The survey also found a sizable racial ethnic disparities. Students identifying as Black, American Indian, or Alaska Native reported rates of food insecurity exceeding 60%. That's 10 points higher than Latinx students and 20 points higher than white students. Survey findings really help us paint a picture and tell a story of who our students are and the needs that they face. I know many of you will be in the state capitol tomorrow talking to members of the legislature during our advocacy day, and I hope that we will all join together and ask legislators to support our sponsored bill, SB 291, which would create a new financial aid program focused on non-tuition needs of our students. This kind of support would directly help the students identified in this survey. I want to thank everyone who helped support commissioning this work, and thank the Hope Center for the great work that they did in helping us identify this tremendous need, although I know many of you know that this need is out there, but it's important for us to really look at the evidence and survey the students directly, and this will help us better understand those needs. Pivoting from there, the last two semesters we've been doing listening tours, and I want to announce that again this spring we will be back out to several of our colleges, spending some time with them. We are visiting the College of the Sequoias on April 10th, and then we're going all the way south to Imperial Valley on April 15th, and then back up here at Sacramento City College on April 25th. We're going to swing through East LA College on April 29th, and then finish off the spring semester at Contra Costa, which I appreciate their willingness to let us reschedule a previous listening tour that we had to reschedule. So as always, if any members of the board are interested and available joining, we'd be happy to have you come with us. I'm very excited to welcome a few new faces to the Chancellor's office, although they're not new faces to me. I've had the great pleasure of working with these two individuals for many, many years, and they've done outstanding work for both the colleges, organizations, and for the system. So first, while at a previous board meeting, we announced her hiring. We have her here in the audience today, and that is our new Vice Chancellor of Workforce and Economic Development, Sheni Weber, who started on February 4th. Sheni, wave to everybody. Welcome. And as I announced last week, we have another member of the executive team joining us here soon, and she is here for this board meeting. She couldn't wait to come by and say hello, and we're happy that she did. She will be joining us as the Executive Vice Chancellor of Educational Services, and her name is Marty Alvarado, and she's here sitting next to Sheni as well. Welcome, Marty. Just a few more items. Echoing what Board President Epstein mentioned earlier, today we will be approving regulations around a historic piece of legislation, AB 705. And the board will take action on these regulations, and they are critical to our system's ability to help students succeed. I'm thankful to the tireless work of our AB 705 work group, to 5C, numerous Chancellor's Office staff, our equity partners, including the Campaign for College Opportunity, Ed Trust West, and the California Acceleration Project, as well as our students, who have been a critical part of these regulatory changes. And of course, I'd be remiss if I didn't thank specifically SMAC, Students Making a Change, that have been working tirelessly in their advocacy to ensure that our system eliminates barriers and provides students the opportunities that they deserve. So thank you all for your support. I know the board will be voting a little bit later, but I did want to take this moment to thank you all for the tireless work that you've put into this and for the enormous amount of hours that we've all put into these regulations. And then finally, I know that there'll be an item later today making some changes to the Board of Governors appointees to our foundation board, and I just wanted to personally thank Board Member Avalos for committing himself to working with our foundation. I think he's done a tremendous job highlighting not only the partnership that needs to exist, but ensuring that we set clear goals for the foundation and are continuing to align the work of the foundation with the Board of Governors. So thank you, Board Member Avalos. And that's all I have.
Okay, thank you, Chancellor. First up is the consent calendar, the board meeting minutes. Item 1.1 is the Vice Chancellor, Deputy Chancellor. Please go forward.
So this is a consent item, item 1.1, and it presents the January 14 meeting minutes for your approval.
Any comments from the board? Okay, do I have a motion? Okay. Did you get that, Christina? Okay. This time we can do all in favor? Aye. Any opposed or abstain? Okay. Next up is item 2.1, contracts and grants.
So item 2.1, as President Epstein mentioned, has some amendments. The amendment removed grant item 2, the CCAP STEM Pathway Grant, and it also made changes to the recommended action to reflect this change. So just remove them from your recommended action. We will plan to bring back that grant back to this board at the May Board of Governors meeting.
That was item 2?
Yes. So the amended item that you have in front of you, and we'll make that change online as well, should only have 7 grants and contracts, and I'll cover them very briefly for you. The first is a contract item. It is a renewal to the Academic Senate to expand the use of open educational resources. Year 1 primarily focused on creating the infrastructure to build connections with colleges and increasing collaborations to encourage adoption of OER. Year 2, which is in front of you, for a renewal, will focus on conducting a statewide needs assessment, identifying specific disciplines to start off with, and setting a clear goal for how many certificates and degrees should be adopted by year 3. Grant items 2 and 3 are also renewal grants. They are the Alternate Text Production Center and the Distance Education Captioning and Transcription grants. They help our office provide services to districts and colleges to provide accessible materials, including textbooks. Item 4 is an interagency agreement. You've seen these before. This is the way that our office can get reimbursed for federal cost of programs. In this case, you have a reimbursement from the Department of Social Services for the foster and kinship care education and training program that our office provides. Grant 5 is a renewal grant, which selects Chabot Las Positas as the fiscal agent for IEPI, our Institutional Effectiveness Division. They are our technical assistance division. And essentially what this renewal grant does is it signs off to have a fiscal agent. This is a part of the way that our office has to operate in order to use Proposition 98 dollars. We secure a fiscal agent who will then provide administrative support, and then we will be able to hire subcontractors on behalf of the Chancellor's office. Grant item 6 is a new grant for the Santa Clarita CCD to help colleges remain accredited, resolve audit findings, and improve institutional effectiveness. This work is a continuation of the prior year as well. This is how we provide institutional effectiveness through our partnership resource teams, PRTs. We also provide communities of practices convenings with these dollars. And in the next year, in order to use these funds, we will work with all of the divisions in the Chancellor's office to set priorities to provide technical support using these funds. Many of you have already been to events related to IEPI. The most recent one was attended by 6 of you, the Diversity Summit. That is where those dollars are used for. It's in aligning and providing support across all divisions. And then grant number 7 is a brand new grant under WED, the Workforce and Economic Division. It's the California Apprenticeship Initiative. The grant provides funds to districts to increase apprenticeships in rural communities and in the agricultural industry. This grant is a result of a study and a committee that put together a recommendation to this office and this board to make greater investments in rural communities and in the agricultural industry. Happy to take your questions.
Hey, any board comments? Member 5?
Yeah, I have a question on item 5, the revised one, the $20 million to Chabolas Rositas. So the entire amount for the 5-year program is 20 million, correct? Not
Yeah.
20 million every year, okay. And I see that in your description or accomplishments that basically it is a collection of workshops that will be conducted with this $20 million or so. And then at the very end of the description that IPI intends to incorporate the promising practices into professional development model that supports the vision success and all this stuff. And it lists like student-centered solutions, professional development, cross-functional teamwork, and the like. I just want to be, that's to me is too much of a 30,000 feet description. I want to see if we can actually see tangible results or deliverables or outcomes that can be actually traced back to the $20 million, which I don't think is a small amount of a chunk of change. So I know that we're in year 3 of 5 years. And are we at a comfortable stage to actually, there be light, I guess, to see if we can get some outcomes or deliverables, and what is student-centered solutions, and what is cross-functional teamwork and the like. I like something more tangible than that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I just want to clarify, it is $20 million every single year. So this is for year 3. Every single year.
We're talking about $100 million for the 5 years.
5 years,
So
yes.
that even
Yeah.
adds to the point that I was trying to make.
So what we do with these funds is we collaborate across different divisions, and this has been a part of the ongoing work for this agency to align IEPI along with Division for Success and all of the different divisions. Every division essentially provides technical assistance to the field in one way or another. So these dollars are used for that. The way that we have informed this body, this board, has been through our report to the legislature. We just had a report due. More than happy to write an informational item for the main board meeting. But it is essentially all of the workshops. So we had a series of workshops for the student-centered funding formula. We had webinars, all of the data. There has been a huge need in the field lately to understand their data, right? Data doesn't drive change, people do. So what do people know their data, first of all? Then do they know what to do with their data? And then do they know how to motivate individuals to then follow through? That has been a series of workshops and conferences. We also do a lot of contracting out in the field. But again, happy to write an informational item for May to lay out what our office specifically does with those dollars outside of providing you the legislative report.
And the outcomes from
Yes.
those workshops, please. Thank you.
Yeah.
Member Baum.
Thank you. I've supported or been pleased to see the development of the Partnership Resource Team Program and institutional effectiveness. I saw that this is a grant, though, for a first year of $7.5 million. And then I noticed that that's aimed to have 13 institutions begin the Partnership Research Team process. We're up to 15 this year and 20 next year. So for one partnership resource team, it's if you divide that by $7.5 million, it's the equivalent of several $100,000 of consulting services to each district. Is that how do we come up, or and it would be helpful to see the outcome as well of that, how many took advantage of it, because our resource team is kind of like I envision accreditation team coming, but not. But they help with the professional development, that identify problems. They come up with planning too. But is it $500,000 a visit or $250 or something like that?
I don't have that number off the top of my head, but I'm wondering if our Dean Jeff Spano has that number. As you know, the PRTs are invitation only. It takes 3 visits, so it takes longer than a year to execute and spend down these dollars. But I'm wondering do you have a dollar amount?
Well, what I can tell you is that...
Please identify yourself.
I'm sorry.
Please identify yourself.
Jeff Spano, Chancellor's Office, IAPI. What happens in a nutshell is a CEO of a college or a district requests or shows interest, and they identify a couple of areas of interest that they'd like help with. And then a team is put together of about 6 to 8 individuals who commit to 3 visits. These are volunteers from within the system, so it's built on a colleagues helping colleagues model. And they go out and help the college with those areas of focus. And in the second visit, they help them develop an innovation and effectiveness plan to help solve whatever challenges they've listed. And at that point, the college or district is eligible for up to $200,000 of seed money, which is designed to really not solve the problem, but kind of jumpstart or help them continue and not have to wait for another budget cycle or identify funds. So a lot of the funds do go back to the college in the form of those grants.
Okay, that makes sense. I didn't realize that. So the faculty or administrators that are conducting the work are volunteering their time, but then they have the ability the colleges will be eligible for up to $200,000 in support once they identify a solution to whatever challenge they've presented.
Right, and so we've had 90 colleges so far, actually 78 colleges, 10 districts, and the Chancellor's Office had a PERT as well a couple of years back. And then there are some colleges or districts that are requesting another PERT because this has been going on for a number of years. And so what we've done most recently is refocus or retool the request so that it aligns much more closely now with the Vision for Success.
Mirablos?
I want to follow up on item 7, which is the rural initiative. So, growing up in a rural community of the Upper Sacramento Valley and being part of alumni of Butte College, I just want to dive deeper in this. Obviously, there's definitely need in the rural communities of California. When I look at page 20, for whatever reason, I see Yosemite twice. I don't know if that's normal or not, but I see it twice. And then when I look at this, something stands out like Riverside and Los Rios, which aren't really in the rural communities, but obviously have probably some sort of ag programs, I'm assuming. But I want to go deeper in this. It's like, it seems like only 10 proposals were submitted, 6 were met the requirement, and we allocated 5. I'm assuming 5 out of the 6, so 1 didn't get approved, I guess. But can you clarify why we have Yosemite twice?
Yes.
And can you clarify why didn't we get more proposals from colleges that represent the rural communities?
So, the pressure always to put out these dollars is timing. And so our office puts out a proposal, we get back a number of proposals, and in this case, we had 10. 6 were selected, and we are funding districts, community college districts. So there could be more than one college in this district. That is the case for Yosemite. I couldn't tell you what college it is, and I don't know if staff has that information. In the case of Ventura, having lived there for several years, Oxnard, there are some portions of Oxnard that are really rural, up in the Santa Clarita Mountains. Same situation with Riverside. But I am joined here by Vice Chancellor Shinny Weber. It is her first meeting, and I'm wondering if she has an answer for you in terms of Yosemite CCD.
So Modesto Junior College and Columbia are both under Yosemite CCD, so that's why they're listed twice.
And to the question that we only have 10 proposals and only 6 met the requirements, do we have a sense of why only 6 out of the 10, or even why we have only 10?
So this is the first time we've gone out for the rural colleges, for the rural apprenticeship program. And there's a whole scoring process where the reviewers, there's 3 reviewers assigned to each proposal. And then there's a passing score of 75 out of 100. And so only those colleges that have received the passing score are funded out of the 10. And that's the normal process that we follow to select these RFAs.
I'm assuming we did go out to more than just 10. I'm assuming we went out to all the community. I think that's really important for me to make sure that although timing is important, we got to make sure we hit the community college districts that have those rural communities as well.
We will go out again for another round very shortly after.
Member Costa?
Mine's on the same item, which I really like this item a lot. I think it's good that we're working with our rural districts. I think that they have different issues and challenges. But my question is actually on page 20, the last bullet, which is we have a minimum for how many apprentices that we think that this should serve. And I'm just kind of wondering, how did we come to that number, that 200 is the right amount? Seems like a big financial investment for 200 apprenticeships.
My guess is it comes out of some general standard count for apprenticeship programs, although I think that's a number that we need to look at. Every college is different, every community is different. It's very cookie cutter, but we need to be a lot more considerate of the situation on the ground.
The number also comes from the report. So there was a committee that was convened of experts in the state, and they roughly looked at how many we currently had and how much we would want to see growth by. But as Shinny mentioned, we will be going out. We have additional dollars that we can spend for this purpose, and her division will be going out and putting out a new grant.
Okay, any other comments on these grants? I have a few. Consistent with what I think Member Baum and others have said over the years, I found that several of these did not have very specific goals. I reiterate what Member Fahn said about the institutional effectiveness one. It would have been nice to have seen real numbers in there and not just even process metrics like number of seminars held, let alone outcome measures. But I found the same issue with the first 3 items now that are left from our agenda. All seem to have goals for the upcoming term that were pretty inspecific, not really that measurable. And I wondered what your observation was on that.
So I think if we can take them one by one. So the first one is the contract to expand OER, and that is with the Academic Senate. So I mentioned that there was a little bit of on-ramping, right? Step 1 was building an infrastructure. Step 2 is really about designing gaps and doing a statewide assessment. Step 3, from what my understanding is with staff, is that the Academic Senate will work to, at least in year 3, adopt 10 certificates or degrees in year 3. That is the extent in terms of my knowledge in this area. I think the Academic Senate would be available to answer those questions, yes.
On that one, I can answer, which is this is a budget item, and the request was for the Chancellor's Office to serve as the fiscal agent for the Academic Senate. So this was part of the Prop 98 package that was approved as part of the budget, specifically for OER.
But does that mean that the goal could only be to develop a rubric and not to have any?
I mean, I think you'd have to ask the legislature, because as I recall, who put it in.
So the extent of the budget language is essentially 2 sentences that require for a contract to be created, and then it goes into additional budget detail I think what you're asking is really about outcomes, which is a fair question to ask.
Yeah, I
and
really
that
don't
would
think
be-
developing a rubric is a goal. I mean, when you're trying to affect specific things than people. So I think we ought to work with the Academic Senate to create a more, better accountability on what we're trying to achieve and can measure if it's being achieved. Okay, you're going to address the other ones too?
The alternate text production center, as well as item 3, which is our captioning and transcription grant. These are all grants. So essentially the way that it works is it's service based on a request. So our districts and colleges will ask for these services to be created. Mini grants may be handed out through this process, or a specific contractor will be hired on to do some of this work. It is needed in our field. We've only had to once expand the dollar amounts for, I believe it was item 3, but in general, the need is met for our districts and our colleges.
Yeah, I guess my question is that, it says last year, or in the preceding fiscal year, you've fulfilled, X number of requests. And, was that the right number for the amount of money that was delivered? Or, is there any way to track what we should be expecting? And also, is there more need out there than we're actually fulfilling? Are we making sure that the colleges are aware that this is available and this kind of assistance is available? And it just says to meet the demand. And I guess, what if the demand triples? It seems like there should be a little more specificity in what we can achieve with these dollars, and so that's.
Fair questions. I think what I would like to do is bring it back to the division. We've always spent down the dollar amounts that have been provided, but you're absolutely right. If there is more need, we need to figure out what it is. And this board can then move forward with making a recommendation to add additional funds or request additional funds from the legislature.
Any other board questions? Any public comment? I don't see any forms. Okay, we'll take a motion to approve the contracts.
So moved.
Second was Anderson. All right. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Abstain? No? Well, I think it's time to bring up the man with the St. Patrick's Day socks on a day late. You guys can all check it out later. I've been staring at them for the last half hour. Item 2.2, the standing orders and procedures.
Okay, thank you, President Epstein. Hello, Vice President Haynes, Chancellor Oakley, and members of the board. We're here for the most exciting event of the day, as always. Amendments to the board procedures and standing orders. We went over these in great detail last board meeting. I'm sure you all remember. And I just wanted to draw your attention to 3 changes that we made in response to some of the specific more substantive conversation we had about these items at the time. So the first change is in section 22, and there was a request to clarify.
What page number?
I'm sorry, it's page 31 of your agenda. Section 22 is a fairly small matter. It refers to the authority of the president to place items on the agenda at the request of other members of the board, and we just clarified that the president has discretion as to when that item is to be heard and whether it's to be heard at all. So that's that change. The next change I wanted to flag is in section 206. That's page 35 of your agenda. And that clarifies in response to, I think, Member Anderson in particular wanted to make sure that notice of regulatory actions would be presumptively by email. And we've done that with an option to opt out for regular mail if people choose that instead. And then the third item is in section 317 on pages 51 and 52 of your agenda, which relates to the statement of legislative principles being substituted for the vision for success, and also placing on the chancellor a four-year limitation in terms of how long he can take authority from the board to advocate legislative items. So he can take that authority and advocate for similar items for a period of up to 4 years, which previously was limitless, and we wanted to correct that. So those are the only substantive changes that we've made. There were some other sort of typographical cleanup that we've taken care of. And so unless there are other questions, I would just ask that you approve the item.
Member Anderson?
Yeah, I'd just like to say, thank on behalf of myself, Tom, for bringing this issue up. As I read through it again last night, not only do I think that we've, streamlined the process, but, you listen, Mark, and I think it's a much more effective document and really helps us go ahead and manage going forward. So thank you for that effort.
Member Font?
I concur. I like the cleaner language inserted in here. I have a question though on page 30, where item 11, you have a lot of lines stricken out and then reserve is underlined. Does that mean that that whole section, special meetings, is deleted from the standing orders, or?
Yeah, so there were some provisions that we struck because the procedures of the board call for us to follow the Bagley-Keene Open Meeting Act. And then there were sections that purported to restate an older version of the Bagley-Keene Open Meeting Act. So what we've done is struck those provisions. We'll follow Bagley-Keene in whatever form it exists at the time that we are conducting our meetings. And there are provisions in Bagley-Keene that would address special meetings.
So this board, as it stands now, or every year we have 6 meetings, right?
Yes.
And this board is limited to those 6 meetings only, and there cannot be a special meeting called by the president or any majority membership of the board.
No, we have 6 regular meetings.
Right.
And there are provisions under the Bagley-Keene Open Meetings Act that would allow for a special meeting to be called, and we would do that and follow the Bagley-Keene Open Meeting Act when we do so, when the board does so.
And is that written somewhere in the procedure or not?
It's in the Bagley-Keene. So no, it wouldn't be in our procedures, it's in Bagley-Keene itself.
Okay, I'm clear. Thank you.
Any other comments? Okay,
You don't look at me.
but before we continue, I just want to put out, I see there's people standing in the back. There's some great seats in front that are available if any of you want to take them. And I promise not to comment on your socks. Okay, Vice President.
Just to reiterate what has been said, this is such a clean version that is understandable. And I like your efficiency of words in it. Those that count are there. Those that decorate the document are not there, and it's appreciated.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, do I have a motion? Rawlings and Perry. I think Perry came in under the wire here for the second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Moving on, second reading, AB 705.
Good afternoon, President Epstein and Vice President Pamela Haynes and Chancellor Oakley and members of the board. It is indeed my pleasure today to bring for second reading regulations for AB 705. I want to also introduce 2 of my colleagues. You've already know General Counsel Mark LaForestier, Vice Chancellor Rhonda Moore. They're up here with me because we worked as a team to shepherd through with the field and with all of our stakeholders the AB 705 regulations. So they're here today as we move through some of the important information as you make your vote and decision for second reading and action for AB 705. I would just want to briefly echo what Chancellor Oakley said at the top of our meeting, that it is a historic vote, an historic day, and there are a number of key people in the field and within our system that I also want to acknowledge. I want to acknowledge our statewide Senate President, John Stanskis, who's here with us today as well. He worked really closely with EVC Laura Hope and a number of important stakeholders through the advisory committee to look at the regulations and to provide feedback. I also want to acknowledge the co-chairs of our statewide curriculum committee, 5C, Virginia Guliff, our CIO, Virginia Guliff, and our Virginia May. They co-chair the 5C, and their work on this was also very, very important and estimable, and we couldn't have moved forward without them, and we certainly couldn't have moved forward without the advisory committee, the statewide advisory committee. So what I'd like to do is go through the 45-day public comment series. What we're looking at right now are pages 53 through 92 in the book. And I'm going to go through in hopefully a very orderly fashion and summarize 3 sets of comments. And first we're going to start within the 45-day period, we're going to start with the oral comments that were presented at the January Board of Governors meeting when we had the first reading. If that's all right with President Epstein. I would just like to summarize them thematically. I'm not going to read them all. I'm not going to go through all the names. I want to point out certain themes. And with the oral comments at the January BOG, we're beginning on page 85, comments received during the public hearing. There were 2 acknowledgments during the oral comments. John Stanskis, President of the Senate, Kelly Fowler, president of the CIO group, came forward and wanted to acknowledge 5C's work on the regulations. The board and the chancellor's office are very happy for that acknowledgement, and we acknowledge their key work. 4 students came forward from SMAC. 1 was in absentia, but a person's letter was read by another student. They mainly wanted to talk about expressing support for non-credit co-requisite courses that can be paired with the transfer level math and English courses. That's very much acknowledged in our response that non-credit will be an option for the field, for our faculty to be able to offer. There was another concern. Students represented that they want to make sure that AB 705 regulations, once passed, are enforced throughout the field and throughout our colleges, and we acknowledge that they will be. We're working on a whole series of supports and technical assistance to the field so that they're able to gather some of the requirements that are going to flow from these regulations, the adoption plan being one of them, and placement schema and guided self-placement. The other comment was that students were encouraging their student colleagues across the field to be able to self-report their high school data, and that's also covered in the regulations. There was also a oral comment by Katie Hearn of Chabot, also the executive director for the California Acceleration Project, and she also wanted to speak to the enforcement of the regulations piece, that once these are passed, that the chancellor's office and the board work toward making sure that AB 705 is implemented appropriately. Moving on to written comments during the 45-day period. Again, I'm going to organize these thematically. And the first theme is that 7 written comments came through regarding section 55063, and we're on page 88. 55063 is the minimum requirements for the associate's degree. A number of these comments came through, and the chancellor's office, on behalf of the board, reached out to our Senate leadership and a number of key faculty, including Virginia May on 5C. And we made a determination that we're going to revert, the board is going to revert to the original extant Title V language. This section of the regulations in Title V is not immediately directly germane to AB 705 implementation. However, it's a very important section in the regs, and this is going to be revisited for revision by 5C and the Chancellor's Office and the field. There were a number of comments regarding 55522, which is really the meat and potatoes of the AB 705 regulations. As you can see from the first reading and where we are right now, that there's a significant amount of new language there. And there were two concerns raised regarding students with disabilities. And from the field, we had questions regarding potential costs for retroactively placing students with disabilities into transfer level courses. And what the Chancellor's Office and the board, our response is that we're going to be able to reach out to that commenter and get more data and more information on that, and then provide guidance to the colleges about how they may fund whatever costs may ensue from that retroactive action. There were 3 comments regarding ESL, and those are very important as well. Primarily around the ability to use in AB 705 to use a written test for ESL students, and a number of other concerns regarding placement. And the response from the Chancellor's Office and the board is that we're very close to coming up with our regulation language, our Title V language around ESL. They go live, so to speak, in fall 2020. So our advisory group statewide team is still meeting. We're expecting final analysis from the research from PPIC, as well as from our own MMAP research team with the RP group, or the research and planning group. Once we have that data, we're going to be moving forward to add the ESL portion to Title V. So these are really worthy comments and questions, and they're just held in abeyance until we're able to get to finalizing our work with the ESL committee. And lastly, we're going to written comments from the 15-day re-notice, and that period was February 26th through March 12th, 2019. And these begin, these are actually a separate handout that were given to you, fresh off the press, on Friday and Saturday. Again, we had a number of comments about 55063, which you recall are the minimum requirements for the associate's degree. The primary response there is that this is the only section where we're going to be reverting back to the extant language in Title V, especially as it pertains to the transfer requirement with a GPA of 2.0 versus a grade of D, and the backing and forthing around the grade versus the GPA. We're going to be reverting back to that original language. There were two comments on 55522 in the 15-day notice period, and these comments primarily are asking questions about guided self-placement and guided placement and self-placement throughout the field. We're impaneling a work group statewide. We're reinvigorating and reconvening the former statewide assessment committee, which is required under statute to have this committee. And rather than looking in their old dispensation, looking at placement tests for math and English, they're going to be helping provide guidance to the field on self-placement and guided placement methods, particularly methods that are in alignment with the requirements of the regulations. And those requirements are clearly delineated in 55522, Section C. So I submit the summary comments for your consideration, and we can answer any questions you might have. That concludes our presentation for the second reading of AB 705 regulations. Thank you.
Any comments from the board? Mr. Walker-Griffin.
Thank you, President Epstein. I don't have any questions, but thank you for the presentation. And in addition to that, thank you to all the stakeholders out in the field for working on this. The reason why I'm so strongly in favor of AB 705, because it truly symbolizes and hallmarks not just equality, but equity in higher education. As it's pretty obvious, I'm a black male, and black males are the lowest performing demographic in all of higher education. We have the lowest graduation rates out of any other demographic in the entire system. And to me, what this symbolizes is giving people a fair chance and an equitable chance to succeed. I don't know how many of you have ever taken a placement test, but to be quite honest with you, it's very unfair. It asks you what you know on that given day. And as many of you also know, that people who come through our doors in whatever community college may be are a little bit older. So they're not coming straight out of high school as you would see in the UCs or the CSUs. They've had a little bit of life under their belt, and they're trying to come back to reinvigorate themselves. With AB 705, this is giving people a new opportunity, not only to succeed, but to propel themselves and erase some of the barriers that many people have faced, including black males that I know that I've personally faced. Which is why I asked my colleagues to vote in favor of this today, because this is a historic day in education. It's setting the tone, not just for the state of California, but for the rest of the country and even other countries that follow along, that says we need more equity and equality in education. And I just wanted to urge my colleagues to vote yes in this. Thank you.
Member Phan.
I do want to thank you for the presentation, and I especially was delighted to see the comments made by the folks in the field and the chancellor's office responses to those comments. And I think this is probably the last step in this year-long or year-long plus process of changing the language in Title V. But while the language will be changed with our vote today, it is a big issue in terms of implementation of 705 in the classrooms and at the college campuses. And I applaud the work that our Vice President and the Academic Senate and all those involved in making this language possible for amendment to Title V. But if we were to project into the next 3 years or 5 years when actually 705 is really implemented, I am concerned that there will be some hiccups in the process of implementing 705. So I wonder if we should, given the good work that we have put to date on the change of the language, that a similar process or a similar effort can be in place so that as the 114 or 115 colleges are implementing this at their respective campuses, that those hiccups could be addressed and that we just don't simply push students through when that is not the intent of the language. So probably just my observation on that, and perhaps Chancellor, you can respond.
Thank you, Board Member Phan. I mean, certainly it is one thing to pass a law and to change regulations. It's another thing to actually implement the change. And that is going to be a big part of the effort, as it already has been going forward. We have a very aggressive timeline to have colleges implement by fall of 2019. We do have the luxury of having many colleges already well on their way and far along. You've heard one of them come present here, Cuyamaca College, but you know, there was a wonderful piece in the East Bay Times about the work at Los Medanos College, and many other colleges are showing an example of how this can be implemented well in both in the best interest of the institution, but most importantly in the best interest of our students. So we will be looking at those models. And we also have a similar experience when we adopted the associate's degree for transfer. There was a lot of work to be done to implement that change as well, and I think we've come a long way. But we're also going to rely on the work of our external partners, such as many of the advocacy organizations that have been out there supporting changes to AB 705, helping us understand what's actually happening in the field, as well as the Academic Senate. I think learning as much as possible on how we can provide technical support to colleges as they implement and show best practices from the colleges that are doing this very well.
Member Rawlings.
Thank you. So I appreciate the question about being a little flexible as we really get the true implementation of this done. While we were at Mission College, President Epstein and I heard from a math faculty member who had a concern. I just wanted to put it on your radar, sort of paying attention to it. They were concerned about really breaking down the data, especially at the local level between STEM and non-STEM. And the approach was, and the idea was a little different than I'd heard at other colleges. In this case, they were concerned that we needed to spend more time on the fundamentals in STEM majors rather than the non-STEM majors, so that non-STEM majors going through fairly quickly, especially through math, could be a little more accelerated and not have a whole lot of detrimental effect. But then making sure we're taking the time to study the impact on the accelerated pathways on the STEM majors and on the making sure that they have the fundamentals down strong enough that when they get to some of the much more advanced work that they're able to do so. So I think that was something that caught my attention from our last visit.
Yeah, I'm really glad that you shared that. I think, in speaking with our statewide academic senate leadership and speaking with other stakeholders around California, the colleges are wanting to do both formative and summative research and gathering of data. So they're going to be looking at the quantitative data, not only the success rates, but throughput and all that we talk about with that kind of data, but also just polling faculty and students about their experience within these transfer level courses with the co-requisites and the models that colleges are going to be choosing. Our goal is that we provide as much technical assistance as possible for helping achieve that efficacious research. I just wanted the board to know too that there was a statewide group that focused primarily on looking at what we call our CB coding. It's looking at pre-college level course coding and college level course coding. And we had to make some pretty significant changes in order to be ready for the field to start to evaluate. And those changes are being made right now through our IT, through Todd Hoig and in our IT department. And the Senate right now and others are doing regional workshops to explain the new coding to the field. So, and there's a pretty broad array of professional development that's out there through a lot of our partners, CAP, the Senate leadership, 3CSN, a whole range of partners who are really working hard to make sure the field knows and is aware of a lot of professional development opportunity. We know that there's a lot ahead as we implement. We're very steadfast in understanding that our support to the field needs to be consistent and collaborative and very much on point. And so I appreciate all of your comments.
If I can just add one more thing, because I think it's important to be clear. While there certainly is going to be a need for flexibility, a need to engage in a lot of support to the field, let me be clear that we are going to implement AB 705 as it was written, period. And you will hear many people say that we are putting an undue burden on our colleges. We have to push back against that notion. We are putting the onus on our colleges to prove that a student needs a particular coursework in order to succeed, not the other way around. It is not up to the student to prove that he or she does not. So I think on that basis, we're going to draw a very clear line. Now, I have great faith in our colleges, in our faculty, in organizations like the Academic Senate, like CAP, like others who are doing great work in this area, and we're going to support that with every ounce of support that we can bring to bear. But there's going to be a very clear line.
Okay, Member Zaragoza.
I just wanted to echo the voices of my fellow students. It is going to be hard to implement in the next couple of years and make sure that colleges are following through. But I know that the Chancellor's Office is going to do everything that they can to ensure that this happens. And I mean, just going forward, making sure that every student's voice that we hear saying, my college isn't doing this right, that we, take that with absolute priority and make sure that those schools are indeed informed and making sure that no students fall behind in the process. And so I have absolute faith in all of you for this implementation, and I'm excited to pass this today.
Member Grande.
I also want to echo some of the concerns that Member Fawn had mentioned about a follow-up report regarding the implementation, but I'm particularly interested in knowing about the number of schools that are deciding to partner with the non-credit side versus the credit side, and how better students may be served using non-credit supports versus credit supports. So when we see that follow-up report, I'd be particularly interested to see between the credit and the non-credit.
So thank you. I just want to echo and add my thanks to all of the stakeholders who have worked tirelessly on this, having served on the AB 705 implementation team and attending those meetings. Everyone was all in terms of really trying to do its very best to make certain that the field had guidance, and that we're now at this place of changes to Title V. But the work has just begun in many respects. I would also like to make certain that those colleges and districts that are ahead of us, many of us, that we continue to learn from them, take those things away that are helpful and help us move forward. I would also like to put a word out to all of our students, all 2.2 million of them, that their voice is critical, and they just can't stay silent because we've gotten a Title V correction. They now have to add their voices to making certain that we know what's working and what's not working, where the barriers may be, so that we can help along to make certain that those barriers are knocked down and moved out of the way. We've also have to listen to faculty, and in particular, faculty that really is really about doing the work and figuring out how to best do the work in service of students. They need to continue to do that. And then I also want to add my concern about those colleges that will be, so we have a system where basic skills, there was credit and non-credit. I'll just use my district. Ours is a credit district, and it was 5 units for a basic skills course, which was astronomical. It is the reason why we have a big reason why we have unit creep, is because so many of our students were placed into 4-credit basic skills. Well, now we don't have basic skills, but now we have co-requisites. And while that support is critical and important, I think we really do have to have the conversation around non-credit. And especially now that, if I'm understanding correctly, our schools are funded for non-credit in a way that they weren't in the past. So there isn't that incentive to use non-credit is at least there, because there is some cost that can be borne because there's funding for it. And the only other thing that I would add to why that issue is so important is because many of our students, we have this overall plan, but many of our students we're suggesting that they, in order to get through and to get through timely, that they take on financial aid. When you have a transfer level course and you need support, and you're putting a credit to it, and students are on financial aid, the goal is for them to get through it. But many of our students are challenged. If it's a 4-unit class and it's a 3-unit co-requisite, that's 7 units. If you drop that class, in many cases, you're now not eligible for the financial aid that you're on. That's the kind of discussions we have to have at our board meetings, mine included. Not only raise it, but really get some clear response to what are we going to do on behalf of our students. So we can say this from this dais, and I am, but we've got to take that message back to the 114 colleges, many of them who are still on the 4-credit process, and we need to talk to our faculty, it seems to me, about that particular aspect and see if we can get some resolution on behalf of students.
Okay, I believe we have a number of public comments.
We do. Sorry. We do. I'm going to, a reminder, 3 minutes each, and then I'm going to call up 3 at a time. If you'll all come up after I call your names, and then I'll do another 3 after that, and after that. So the first would be Melissa Reeve, Carrie Marks, and Manny Rodriguez. Would you put your mic on? That's okay. I don't think it's on.
How's that?
Okay, better.
Okay.
Thank you.
My name's Melissa Reeve, and I have taught English and English as a second language at Solano Community College for 13 years. I also work for the California Acceleration Project as an ESL coach. As an early implementer of co-requisite supported transfer level English composition for students traditionally placed in remedial English, Solano College has already begun to see the gains that strong implementation of AB 705 can drive throughout our system. In 2016-17, 72% of the students who directly accessed transfer level composition with co-rec support passed the composition requirement within their first year of college. That was double the number of similarly qualified students who started one level below transfer. In addition, changes to our ESL program have improved throughput from credit ESL to English composition. An ESL curriculum focused on integrated skills, ESL faculty who teach transfer level composition, and frank conversations with English faculty about what college-ready writing looks like for students from different backgrounds have led to stronger student preparation, as well as more equitable expectations and more supportive approaches among instructors. Students whose accented writing would have barred them from entering transfer-level English at Solano just a few years ago are now succeeding in that course and moving on toward their educational goals. One source of critical support enabling the rapid pace of change in Solano's ESL and English programs has been the BSOT grant our college received in 2016. The grant has enabled us to send all willing full-time and part-time faculty through professional development, such as the workshops and conferences offered by the California Acceleration Project. BSOT funds have also covered the costs of teaching assistants in the co-rec supported sections of transfer-level composition. With the truncation of the BSOT funding cycle, I'm concerned that we will see a reduction in these opportunities. To emphasize how critically we need professional development and support through AB 705 implementation, let me give an example of a more resistant colleague from my own college. One of my full-time colleagues has asked to no longer be assigned to teach transfer-level composition because she says she doesn't recognize the course it has become. Given that we have made no changes to the curriculum or the learning outcomes for this course, what can she mean?
30
Is it
seconds.
the course she doesn't recognize, or does she not recognize the more heterogeneous student population entering the course as college ready? If even a few instructors in a progressive program like Solano's have clung to this view, I know that in some programs it's the prevailing view. So to ensure equitable opportunities across all 114 colleges, I urge you to support continuing professional development opportunities as we implement AB 705. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Carrie Marks, and I'm an English instructor at Sacramento City College. I'm here today to share how AB 705 has impacted our students. My department was an early adopter of the co-requisite model, and we're now in our 4th year of offering it. From the beginning, students in the co-requisite have completed transfer-level English at more than double the rate of students in our traditional developmental sequence, and the success rate for African American students has quadrupled. We have never had a disproportionately impacted group within the co-requisite model. Students, counselors, and administrators all support the co-requisite. And yet, without AB 705 and pressure from our district board and local chancellor's office, I'm not sure we would ever have completely scaled it up. Many of my colleagues wanted to retain our traditional developmental courses despite the poor outcomes for students. I hope that you'll continue your strong leadership by approving the proposed regulations so that the intent of AB 705 will not be undermined by well-meaning faculty who are apprehensive about the changes. This fall, we also began using high school GPA for placement as AB 705 requires. The good news is that this number of students taking the transfer level course increased by 50% over the previous fall, and the success rate for the course also increased by about 6 percentage points. The bad news is that the disproportionate impact on African American students also increased. Their success rate was 21 percentage points lower than the average. How is it that we have no equity gap in our co-requisite model, but an enormous gap in our transfer level only course? I suspect that we can attribute part of this difference to professional development. Thanks to the Basic Skills Transformation Grant, faculty teaching the co-requisite have had robust, ongoing, equity-minded professional development for the past 3 years. Many of our faculty who teach the transfer level only course have not had this training and were unprepared for the fresh out of high school students in their classes. Throughout the fall, I heard complaints in department meetings. Faculty were saying things like, "This is the worst group of students I've ever had. It's like teaching high school." Unfortunately, our data shows that this deficit mindset hits students of color the hardest. The Basic Skills Transformation Grant ends in June, but we have a lot more work to do, and I know that many colleges around the state are in a similar situation. The impact of AB 705 will be limited, especially for our disproportionately impacted groups without faculty buy-in and without equipping faculty with the mindsets and
30
skills
seconds.
needed to shift toward a very different teaching philosophy. I hope that you'll prioritize funding for the professional development that can enable this to happen, along with passing these regulations.
Good afternoon, President Epstein, Vice President Haynes, Chancellor Oakley, and Board of Governors. My name is Manny Rodriguez, here on behalf of the Education Trust West. We're a research and advocacy organization working to close opportunity and achievement gaps for low-income students and students of color. First, we'd like to thank the Board of Governors, the AB 705 Implementation Advisory Committee, 5C, and everybody else who has led this work and has kept equity at the center of their analysis and this decision today. Data has shown us that a standardized placement test and placement policies have disproportionately affected low-income students and students of color by limiting their opportunity to enter into transfer-level coursework. A PPIC report found that 80% of students beginning at a community college are enrolled in at least one of these courses. Within this population, students of color are overrepresented and tend to need remediation classes a lot more. We believe that talent and intelligence is spread equally amongst all our students. It is up to our systems and the actors within them to trust their capacity and set them up for success. We have heard of some bright spots already arising across our community college system. They are seeing promising results, and we hope that improvements continue as this implementation moves forward. At Citrus College, they eliminated remedial English courses and begin their students at transfer level courses or core requisite courses, and students who would have previously been placed in remedial education are seeing completion rates at double that rate. At Foothills College, they allow students to self-place into entry-level transfer math courses, and they support their students with peer tutors, supplemental instructors, and also require them to enroll in co-requisite support. They have seen completion rates 3 times higher than students who would have taken the traditional remedial path. AB 705 is revolutionary for students, but without a strong accountability system to ensure faithful implementation, a clear communication strategy for students in colleges, and professional development opportunities to help faculty understand these new policies, we fear that any improvement made could be eroded. Therefore, we ask the Board of Governors to approve AB 705 regulations and set clear expectations for the implementation of this law. Anything but 100% implementation in accordance with the law is simply unacceptable and inequitable.
30
Thank you.
seconds.
Thank you.
The next 3 folks are Sarah Arce, Katie Hearn, and Brianna Bruns.
Green light.
Green light.
Green light.
Got it. Thank you. Good afternoon, President Epstein, Vice President Haynes, Chancellor Oakley, and members of the board. Sarah Arce, Senior Director of Policy and Advocacy on behalf of the Campaign for College Opportunity. When the Campaign for College Opportunity sponsored AB 705 2 years ago, it was with the fundamental belief that we had to address the largest driver of racial opportunity gaps at our colleges, and that the single high-stakes test should not be the largest determinant of a student's college success. AB 705 asks us to believe in the capacity of our students and to ensure our placement decisions maximize students' likelihood of completing math and English milestones, upending the traditional remedial education sequences that fail far too many students. We are grateful to the leadership of the Chancellor's Office and this board in embracing the vision of AB 705 and the energy that they have invested in developing these regulations. We strongly believe that these regulations are a good first step toward implementation. However, for all students to truly realize the promise of AB 705, it will take your continued leadership and proactive and intentional role in implementation. This includes committing to regularly receiving updates on colleges' progress, identifying barriers and continuing to issue supplemental guidance and taking corrective action if needed, equipping faculty with the tools and supports they need to undertake the curricular changes required, and a clear statewide communication strategy that ensures all students receive common information about placement policies and their rights under AB 705. Again, we thank you for your leadership and urge your support of today's regulations, and we look forward to continuing the partnership to realize the student-centered vision of AB 705. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chancellor Oakley, President Epstein, Vice President Haynes, and members of the board. My name is Brianna Bruns, and I'm the Director of Policy and Advocacy for the California EDGE Coalition. I'll keep my comments brief and would definitely like to echo the comments of my colleague from the Campaign for College Opportunity. Due to the fact that remediation is such a serious impediment to student success, it has been one of our coalition's central policy concerns for almost 15 years. We believe that AB 705 was a huge victory, but its vision can only be realized with successful implementation. We ask the Board of Governors and Chancellor's Office to proactively monitor the implementation, approve these regulations, and ensure that the implementation remains true to the intent of the policy. Thank you for your opportunity to speak this afternoon.
Hello, my name is Katie Hearn, and I am here today as a community college English instructor and also as director of the California Acceleration Project. Nice to see you again. We are a network of thousands of faculty working to increase completion among students who've been labeled underprepared, warranted, or not. We urge you to approve the draft AB 705 regulations and protect students' right to enroll in courses that give them best possible chance of reaching their goals. This legislation has catalyzed long-needed change in the state, and we commend Chancellor Oakley's team for their leadership in ensuring that the regulations follow the intent of the law. I want to acknowledge that many faculty and administrators are afraid that allowing students to enroll directly in transfer-level courses will lead to high rates of student failure. And I also want to assure you that at colleges embracing these changes, this fear is proving unwarranted. Citrus College, for example, as Manny Rodriguez mentioned, eliminated remedial courses in English in the fall, a year ahead of the AB 705 deadline. All students enrolled directly in college composition, with underprepared students taking one additional co-requisite unit with their teacher. Despite worries about students' ability to handle the challenge, success rates in college composition have remained steady, and 60% of the underprepared students successfully completed the course. This is a dramatic improvement over the prior year when just 35% of underprepared students completed college English. We're seeing similar gains at colleges that have opened transfer-level math to all students. And these colleges are in the handouts that you've received. Chancellor Oakley mentioned Los Medanos College. 71% of students in the co-requisite supported statistics class passed this fall, and that class was open to anyone, regardless of assessment score or prior high school background. And this is nearly 3 times higher than students starting in a remedial course the prior year. You can learn more about them in the handouts you've received. We urge you to not only approve the proposed regulations, but to empower the Chancellor's Office to closely monitor compliance and take corrective action as needed. In our work with colleges across the system, we see that many are still clinging to traditional remedial structures and continuing to schedule a substantial number of below-transfer courses as a, quote, option for students, despite research showing that all students do better when they enroll directly in the transfer level. These actions will depress completion, open the door for implicit bias, and violate the spirit, if not the letter, of AB 705.
30 seconds.
As faculty members, we are thrilled that AB 705 protects capable students from being trapped in ineffective remedial structures. Thank you for doing everything you can to keep these protections strong.
Thank you. Marjorie Blue? Is it Blue? Denise Castro and Danny Caraco.
Hi, my name is Marjorie Blend, and I'm here representing Student Making a Change. I just want to thank everyone for looking at the regulation. I think you guys, last time I was here, I hear some concern that everybody's saying. I'm glad Mr. Oakley made it clear that no matter what, whether there's room for the colleges to do their thing, is still a law and they still have to follow the law. The second thing is here, hearing from the students would be great in order to fix those hiccups, like we call them, in the campus. So if the community college board or, this place can contact the students and get a survey saying, are these co-rectors helping you? Is the community college informing you of your right? Are they doing everything possible to help you be in this transfer level? For the people that don't believe in student capability, I just had a meeting with our department chair of English, and she said, well, she gave me all these runaround and bureaucracy. And I told her, you know what, English, I take political science, sociology. I do a lot of reading through all my classes. I do a lot of writing. English is not the only class I do writing for. Therefore, I don't see why we have to have these high GPA for all these students and block them from getting into transfer level or putting them in a high co-rec classes. It's different from math. I know I'm not a STEM major. I'm a sociologist major and an early childhood education major. Therefore, I don't really need math that much. Except for money, I must say that. I need it for money. But don't we all, right? I become a mathematician when it comes to money. But the point is that our capability is that we do a lot of, besides community college, we are capable. We do a lot of reading and writing, math, our taxes, our driving, when you go to IRS, everything, we read, we write, we do math. Colleges try to make me feel sometimes like, you don't know what you're talking about. We are the only ones that know what you're talking about. And that's not true. And while I encourage you guys to hold them accountable, I also like you guys to hear from the students. Because if you want to know how AB 705 is really impacting the students, you need to hear from them directly, not through the community colleges, not through the staff, not through the faculty. A simple survey like they did with the housing, for SB 292 would be great for AB 705, just to keep everybody on board of what's working and what's not working. And I know I've been doing this for a year and a half now. I've been through everything, like California Acceleration Pact, Project Annual Conference, GA Conference. I've been to breakout sessions and everything. And I just want to say the most important piece for everyone to know if AB 705 is working is to hear from students, especially those students with difficulties, a marginalized community like myself, hear from them. No matter what, just hear from them and you will see the result of what this law can do. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Denise Castro. I'm here also with Students Making a Change, and I'll also like to echo what Marjorie said. I think it's really important to hear from students directly and hear what's working and what's not working, because right now I am so happy that for AB 705, and I think that the work is barely starting. In implementation, we see that locally we've been working in statewide to make sure that colleges are informing their students of their rights, that they have these rights to be placed into transfer level classes. They no longer need to be placed into remedial classes, and then they don't no longer have to take the placement test. That it's inhibiting their success a lot of times. students need to hear that they are capable of, they're succeeding, that they're brilliant. A lot of colleges, like San Jose City College, they say, when talking about AB 705, we see you, you're brilliant. College of the Sequoia says, our students have had the capacity to do the work for a long time. Santa Rosa Junior College says, research shows you can do it. These messages that these colleges are telling students, they need to be statewide. Every single college needs to change their attitude from a deficit to capacity, because our students are capable. They are the most hardworking students, and students that are brilliant and intelligent, if they're doing it to change their life, coming to community college to improve their life, and we need to make sure that they have that opportunity, and AB 705 is giving them that opportunity. Now colleges need to just tell them, every single person, like, we believe in you. They need to hear from counselors, from faculty, from every single person on their campus. And really, that just needs to change. Like, we just need to change our culture. Like Marjorie just said, our culture, to make sure that we believe in students, because students, they can do it. We all on this room who have supported AB 705, we know we believe in students. And we just want to make sure that everyone feels the same way. Yeah. And also, we ask you to please support AB 705 regulations. And similar to like the faculty has spoke, faculty training, that's so important. That criticalness is going to be very important to make sure that faculty are telling students, faculty are informed of the research, that students do better in these transfer level classes, because it might be counterintuitive to the people who do not know this research, that actually if you're in place students in remedial classes, you're going to be holding them back. Their likelihood of success currently, if you're placing them in remedial classes, you're going to have an increased likelihood of failure compared to if you place them into transfer level classes. So ensuring that as well.
Hello, my name is Danny Therical. I'm the Regional Legislative Affairs Director for the Student Senate for California Community College for this area here. I also serve as student trustee for the Los Rios Community College District. I serve with Pamela Haynes there. And I'm here to talk about essentially my experience with the assessment tests and why it's important that we support these new regulations and encourage them to be adopted correctly. When I first went into college, I took the assessment test, but what I was not prepared for, even though I'm young, is that the assessment test was online. I was expecting a written one. Second, the math portion was definitely difficult. Having taken calculus in high school and statistics in high school, passing with a 3.8 GPA, I thought I was going to do great. But if any of you taken calculus, you can get a bunch of different answers and they all mean the same thing. So having a multiple choice online math exam was not the greatest for me. And as a result, I ended up in Math 120. And not having the support and resources that I had needed, I started my sequence, and because of policy, I was not allowed to go back on it. And I didn't know that until a year in. Eventually, my college did the pilot program, allowing students to retroactively place themselves using the high school transcripts. And I did that, thinking that I was going to get placed higher, and I did. I got placed in trigonometry instead of Math 120. But I had already started. And so instead of taking only 4 semesters to complete my math sequence to get my ADT, which is my last semester, I'm in Calculus 2 now, it could have taken me 4 semesters instead of 6. It could have been a major time saver for me, but that didn't happen. The counselors I saw were swamped. They just wanted to get students in and out, get them the classes they need. They didn't give me the attention that I needed. They didn't ask me about my high school transcripts or my record academically. And it wasn't until I found those counselors that students know, pay attention, and actually ask the questions that I was able to figure out I was on this long path to finishing my ADT, and it could have been so much shorter. And so I really urge this board to adopt those regulations so that students, such as myself, won't have to go through that long, elongated process. They get into the classes they need and get out faster. Thank you.
That's it.
Member Anderson?
I'd just like to say to the students here from SMAC, I think this is the 3rd or 4th time that you've been here. And I just want to say thank you, for being here while I've been here. I love listening to you. I love your passion. I love your commitment. And I'm so glad you've been a part of the process.
Yes, Member Hall.
So I heard references from you and from some others about college composition. Is that writing a paper? Is that what it refers to when you say college composition?
College composition is a course, a transfer level course. There's English literature and English composition are the two transfer level courses in English.
So in order to pass that, do you have to write papers then that
Yes.
are graded? I see. Is that somewhat subjective? Because one professor grading a paper from one community college might do it differently from a professor at a different community college, right?
So I'm sure there's an English professor in this crowd here that I am not. So if there's anybody who would like to.
But by the way, I'm asking that question because as a lawyer, I see lawyers, a high percentage of lawyers who just don't write that well. And they've gotten through community college and universities, and now they present a brief to a court, and it's just not well written. So I guess I'm just interested to know how the college composition in the junior college level is being evaluated.
Before coming here in the vice chancellor role, much of my career has been teaching English literature and composition. But I do just want to say and put a pin in this moment, just to say it would not be correct to say that all, grading of English composition essays are purely subjective. That's why we had the massive student learning outcome movement and an understanding of rubrics and an understanding of norming, faculty norming together to understand how to grade the work. I think what we're really working on with AB 705 is that equitable access into college level composition. And as one of our SMAC students just said, students who don't go right into their college level English composition their first semester, they're going into their general education classes. And she provided social sciences as an example. And they're doing a rather prodigious, in most cases, a prodigious amount of reading and writing. So the reading and writing is happening. It's required in all our courses. We're going to move forward, and English composition will continue to be, a tool to help students understand the research process and the writing process in that essay format. But it would be wrong to say it's purely subjective.
Thank you.
Can I leave now?
No, stay with me. Hi, I'm John Stanskus. Good afternoon, President Epstein, Vice President Haynes, Chancellor Oakley. I was really hoping I could avoid coming up because you've heard from me a lot, especially about this issue, and you heard from me in the public comment that Vice Chancellor Perez referenced earlier. So I am very proud of the work of the faculty who have worked with the Chancellor's Office to craft regulation that provides the structure in which colleges can operate, and the guidance that we've been able to provide and the professional development that we've been able to provide as both the regulatory arm and the faculty voice and professional development arm as the academic senate. And so we continue to strive to work for that. But I did have to come up and say, which the Vice Chancellor said much more eloquently, that we have worked very hard that grading should not be subjective, that there is some standardization that has occurred. There's dialogue within departments about what is the standard and what is the quality required and how do we know when that's been met. That's why the development of rubrics is very important in our work to evaluate things like writing, where we want to encourage students to be able to write about a variety of things, whatever they're interested in, but then be able to evaluate that writing and ensure that it has met the academic quality that's required for what's traditionally known as English 1A. The CID system has also worked to provide that standardization of outcomes across the system as well, so that there's some clear messaging. As always, we have new faculty coming in all the time. Professional development is a lifelong engagement. When you are in the business of education, I would contend in any business, and we continue to work to improve.
So this might be too granular for the board, I don't know, but I mean, is there a way that we can be shown what the guidelines are for English professors that they use when grading a paper? Are there examples of passing papers? I just like to see it out of curiosity.
I think
and it might be
that
too granular for us, I don't know.
We have a paper that was adopted by the Intersegmental Council of Academic Senates on competency in English composition that is the concurrence of the faculty in the community college, the faculty in the UC system, and the faculty in the CSU system about what is expected in college writing. And so we can make sure we get that publication to
That'd be
you.
great. Thanks.
Member Baum.
Thank you. Chancellor, so once we act on this, what is our plan for data collection so that we can then track? We've heard some anecdotal data collection about improvement results, but will we be tracking statewide certain success metrics that can be applied to seeing how the Impact 705 is doing?
So there's a couple of things that will be already going on. One is we're committed to providing a heightened level of technical support in partnership with the Senate and others, CAP and other partners, to the field. So we recognize that this is an area of substantial change, particularly in some colleges, and we want to provide as much technical support as possible. So certainly our Educational Services Division is gearing up to provide that support. The other thing is the primary area that we will measure success is in seeing an increase in the number of students that successfully complete college level or transfer level English and math. That's one of the simplified metrics that we're using in our new dashboard. That's certainly part of the student-centered funding formula as well. So that data will become very important for us to see what kind of changes we're seeing. And we know that success metric in and of itself has a very high correlation to a student completing their educational goals. So that's very important to us. But we will also be working with the executive team to see what other areas of information and measurements we can gather for the board, because I think certainly what I've heard today is a desire of the board for us to come back and report on how colleges are adopting this regulatory change.
I expect, given those metrics that you just talked about, we'll also be able to track achievement gaps by group
Yes.
as well, so that we can
Absolutely.
see maybe the narrowing of some of those if successful.
Yes, and it's certainly true in looking at our data that those students least likely to complete transfer level math and English are those students that appear in our achievement gaps as well.
Member Costa.
I want to applaud the staff. I also think that the agenda item was excellent for this. I really like how you guys went through all of the public comments and how you responded. And I think the point about professional development is a great one that we heard in public comment. And I would just say that if we're successful in our budget request, that a priority be placed on AB 705 professional development specifically. Because I do think it'll be the key to implementation, not having too many hiccups. And lastly, I've said it before, but I will say it again, which is that the chancellor has some authority to ensure that people are implementing appropriately at the district level. And I fully hope and expect that you will use all of your tools to ensure that that happens.
Chancellor isn't known for being timid about exercising his authority.
I did say expect, Tom.
Member Perry?
I want to reiterate what Member Anderson said about the students from SMAC. It's always a pleasure to hear from you, and today in particular, I think your words really rang true. So please come back again and again and remind us of all of us of why we're here. I think we know it, but being told it by you is really important. And on that note, I want to thank Member Walker Griffin for that pivotal moment of inspiration, for reminding us of what we're doing and why this day is so significant. And in the many thoughtful comments that were put forward today, most of which was a reminder that after inspiration comes implementation. But what rang true to me also were the comments about the basic skills grant. And it seemed that might be sunsetting, so it seemed like an important tool in the implementation. So I just wanted to highlight that as we move forward.
Okay. just about everything's been said, but not everybody's said it, so I'll add my voice. I was part of that implementation committee for a while, and I want to commend everyone who participated in that. It was brutal, and Vice President Haynes in particular stayed longer than I did, and but all the faculty that were on that and all the other folks, that was a difficult process, and it's just, I can't be more delighted that everybody here is on board and unified on the outcome. I just think that that is a tremendous success. This is probably, certainly of any regulation we've adopted since I've been here, this is by far the most important, the most transformational, and I'm very excited that we're kind of putting a bow on it today. And but I think we have learned a lot about how to implement it. I think the professional development is really important. I also think what we've heard from SMAC previously on the marketing of it on campus to let students know that this is their right, I think is really important, and I would encourage colleges to take that very seriously. I would encourage the Chancellor's Office staff to keep an eye on that to make sure that the word is getting out. Maybe we should give all the students that T-shirt that one of our witnesses wore today. But with that, I'm delighted to call for a motion to adopt these regulations. You want to speak first? Okay, I'm sorry. You're moving, and second.
Can we do a roll call since this, given the historic nature of this?
Sure, we can do a roll call on this one.
Darius Anderson.
Yes.
Arnaldo Avalos.
Yes.
Jeffrey Baum.
Aye.
Connie Conway. Amy Costa.
Aye.
Tom Epstein.
Aye.
Jolena Grande.
Aye.
Pamela Haynes.
Aye.
Kevin Hall. Aye. Jennifer Perry.
Yes, please.
Mon Fon.
Aye.
Bill Rawlings.
Aye.
Valerie Shaw.
Yes.
Blas Villalobos. Alexander Walker Griffin.
Aye.
Alexis doesn't vote, but she's.
We know what she thinks. Okay, congratulations. That's a great accomplishment. Okay, what I'd like to do is jump ahead in the agenda. We have some people here waiting to get awards, the Hayward Awards, which is item 3.1. I'd like to give them their opportunity to get the awards. I think since we're kind of running a little on the late side, maybe we should have each of them introduced separately, but then come up together for a photo at the end.
I'd like to invite John Stanskis back to the dais. President Epstein, Vice President Haynes, Chancellor Oakley, and board members, it's my pleasure to introduce this item today. These are the 2018-19 Hayward Award recipients for recognition by the board. Just a brief background. The Hayward Award for Excellence in Education program was established in 1989, and annually awards have been honored community college faculty since that date. Award recipients are nominated by their college academic senate and selected by representatives of the academic senate for the California community colleges, and they must have a record of outstanding performance in professional activities as well as active, robust participation on campus. The award is typically given to 2 full-time faculty and 2 part-time faculty every year, and I've invited John Stanskis here because he will introduce the award winners.
President Epstein, Vice President Haynes, Chancellor Oakley, members of the Board of Governors, I'm John Stanskis. I am the President of the Academic Senate for California Community Colleges. We appreciate the opportunity to introduce faculty to you that for the Hayward Award are our most excellent faculty for the year. I'd like to invite them up to say a few words to you. And I'll do them in the order in your board packet if you want to read about them. The first one, I think you might know her. It is Lynette Niaga, who is a full-time English as a second language faculty member from Rio Hondo College.
So I'm wearing a different hat today. I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about what our faculty do, about the fact that we teach and we have really interesting and varied backgrounds. I spoke to you a couple months ago about my background in African linguistics and gave you some information about African languages. And you probably don't know that I also did teach for 3.5 years at Cal State Fullerton. And I taught in the EOPS program taught English composition to students in the EOPS program. And after that, I taught for 2 years at the University of Nairobi in Kenya. And there I worked with students who talked about their English as being broken English. And being a linguist, that was a problem for me because there is no such thing as broken English. So I decided to collect data for them on the systematic nature of the English that they spoke. And in doing that, I ended up with my doctoral dissertation research unknowingly. And when I came back to the U.S., I taught for 4 years. I taught bilingual kindergarten in Long Beach. And then after that, I got my job at Rio Hondo. So like many of our faculty, I have a pretty varied background. And I was raised by parents who had real interest in international affairs. My mother had a degree in international studies, and my father was an engineer, but always loved traveling and took us when I was just after my sophomore year at UC Berkeley, he took us for a year sabbatical. He took a sabbatical, and they put a second mortgage on their house and took his 4 children to Europe for a year to experience other parts of the world. And I'm so grateful for that. But what I found is that it directed me into what I love to do, and that is I love languages, I love all the cultures of the world, and I ended up teaching English as a second language because I got to experience cultures all over the world every day when I taught. I am so honored to be amongst the 4 people who got the award this year. The other 3 are just amazing, and they are examples of what we have in the community college system. We have such devoted and talented faculty. And I will end with a story about my colleague who was actually one of the exchange teachers from England. He was from Norwich, which is in the northern part of England. And he taught for a year, and he was my office mate. And when he was leaving, he said, "This has been such an experience for me because our students here at Rio Hondo truly believe that education is transformational, that it will change their lives. And this has changed me as well as I go back to England to teach." So we are so fortunate. We are so blessed to have a community college system that serves the people in California. And thank you very much to all of you for the honor of receiving the Hayward Award today.
So we'll go through all 4 of them and we'll do pictures. Great. Our next award winner is Karina Evett. She's a full-time English faculty at Santiago Canyon College.
Good day, President Epstein, Vice President Haynes, and Chancellor Oakley, and members of the board. Thank you for this incredible opportunity to share a bit of myself with you today. My name is Karina Evett, and I'm a professor of English who has been teaching at Santiago Canyon College in Orange for 14 of the 19 years that I have been teaching in the community college system. It is a heartfelt honor to receive the 2018-19 Hayward Award, and I am deeply humbled to have my contributions in the classroom, within my discipline, and with shared governance at the state and college level recognized in this way. I genuinely appreciate you, esteemed members of the Board of Governors and the Foundation for California Community Colleges, for this prestigious award. At Santiago Canyon College, SCC, I teach an array of English classes that range from various levels of composition to honors to literature classes, such as American Literature and Shakespeare. Moreover, I served as the Region 8 Regional Director on the English Council for California Two-Year Colleges, ECTIC, for 6 years, and in addition to presenting at several ECTIC conferences, I also had the opportunity to be the chair and program designer for the ECTIC's 2009 conference. Also at the state level, with the Academic Senate for California Community Colleges, ASCCC, I have served on a number of ASCCC committees, presented at quite a few ASCCC plenary sessions, participated in a college visit as an ASCCC representative, and co-authored an ASCCC rostrum article. At the college level, in addition to having served as the president of the Academic Senate of Santiago Canyon College for 4 years, I currently serve as the Faculty Equity Co-Coordinator, the Faculty Co-Chair for the Student Success and Equity Committee, and Co-Advisor for the SCC Pride Club. I also lead Safe Space Ally trainings, volunteer at the SCC's Hawk Nest Food Pantry, provide equity trainings for students, faculty, and staff, and host the annual Shakespeare in the Park event. I extend heartfelt thanks to the exemplary members of the English Council of California Two-Year Colleges and the Academic Senate for California Community Colleges for the opportunities they have afforded me to help effect positive change in educational and governance practices for students and faculty across the state, as well as for the opportunity to grow on both a professional and a personal level. Furthermore, I am profoundly grateful for the privilege of working alongside so many distinguished members of the Santiago Canyon College and Rancho Santiago Community College District community with students, faculty, and classified staff administrators alike, as well as the endless love, support, and encouragement from my beloved husband, who's here, Todd Evett, for they have all inspired me to strive to be the best educator, colleague, and human being that I can. Thank you very much.
Our next award winner is Ivan Silva, who is part-time counseling faculty at Skyline College. That's Regina Steinbeck Stroud's country. Be nice.
Hi, good afternoon, members of the board. First of all, I want to say thank you so much for sharing this space. I'm extremely honored to be here with all of you. My name is Ivan Silva. I am the Promise Scholars Counselor at Skyline College. I am a counselor, and so I want to share a story with you. I love stories. One of the most important things to me in any counseling session is making sure that there is space and there is room for a student's story to be heard. I'm originally from San Diego, California. I was born and raised. Both my parents immigrated to this country at a young age. I'm a first-generation college student. And entering the college system and the university system, I had no idea what I was doing. I ended up transferring to UC Davis, not knowing where it was on a map. I thought it was in the LA area. And I share that with you because it's very important for me to not forget my experience, not forget where I come from, and provide that humility and that understanding when students are meeting with me. I feel extremely blessed and privileged to be a part of the Promise Scholars program. One of the things that's extremely unique about the program is that students are in it for 2 to 3 years, and they receive dedicated counseling. So the students that I work with are going to be the students that I'll be working with for the next 2 to 3 years. Our goal is to help facilitate those students to get in, get through, and graduate on time. One of the things that students have shared with me in meeting with a counselor is the difficulty in having to share their story over and over and over with a new counselor. And so one of the things that we're most proud of is for our ability as counselors to establish those relationships with students, to get to know their names, to get to know their stories, to get to know their families, to make it feel welcome, and to make the college, particularly Skyline College, feel like a home away from home. One of the things that I'm also particularly proud of is the different culturally relevant and engaging activities and opportunities that we have at Skyline. So this Saturday we have our annual Rock the School Bells Hip Hop Conference taking place. This year's theme is Heart and Soul, and I share that because it is particularly important for us as a planning committee with Rock the School Bells to acknowledge the heart and soul that our students bring, but also the pain, the challenges, and some of the circumstances that our students are coming in with. And so this Saturday we are inviting students. We have about 300 students coming in as an opportunity to share their story, engage in interactive and engaging workshops around hip-hop pedagogy. So we're really doing some really exciting things. I feel completely blessed and honored to be a part of that. And so I thank you again for having me, for having us. The last story I will share is when I called my mom, Spanish speaker, and I shared with her that I had won the Hayward Award. She said, "Oh, that's great, mijo, ¿qué es eso?" She said, so for those of you who don't speak Spanish, she said, "That's great, what is that?" Right? And then she proceeded to ask me if I've eaten already. And I share that again because it's really important to me to be able to connect with our communities and to be able to serve as a bridge for our communities in that sense. Thank you.
And our last award winner is Rachel Purdy. She's a part-time history professor at Solano College.
Good afternoon. I would like to thank you all for having us here today. My name is Rachel Purdy. I'm a part-time history instructor at Solano College. I've spent the last 10 years as a part-time faculty member. I currently teach at the California State University in Sacramento. I'm also currently, working at Chabot College. I've taught for 7 different colleges in California at this point, so I feel like I have a pretty good sense of what students need. I actually had plans to tell you about all of the things on my CV that I'm proud of, but I actually would rather share something more personal, like Ivan did. I am the product of a California community college. I think that it's important when I walk into a classroom, I want my students to know that I've been where they are. Growing up in a single parent household, working class background, where nobody you know went to college, there's something really overwhelming about the idea that higher education is something that's accessible to you, knowing that you have the desire to be something more than what your mother did, but not knowing how to get there. And I have to honestly say that if it wasn't for my experiences at community college, I would not be here accepting this award on behalf of Solano College. It's absolutely mind-blowing. I think that to echo some of the other comments that some of the SMAC students said, we are capable. I mean, there is this tendency in higher ed to look at community college students like that they're beginners in something, but we don't understand, but by the time we get them in our classes, they have jobs, some of them have children, they have other family responsibilities, they are sometimes the primary breadwinners, they have issues with mental health, maybe they have family members that are in and out of the incarceration system, and they come to class and they're on time and they do the work, and I think that we should give them the benefit of the doubt, because you never know who's in our classrooms. That could be me in 10 years, sitting in front of you receiving a really, really amazing award. So I would like to, if you're interested in the equity work that I do or anything like that, I can send you all a copy of my CV. But I think it's important just to remember why we're here. If it weren't for the students that we have, none of us would have jobs, right? Like, they're the reason we're here. And I think that's something it's something that I try to remember every single day. I'd also like to thank not just my college, but a lot of my people in my professional and personal life that have been really instrumental in helping me get here. There are faculty members from my college here. The Academic Senate President of Solano College, Lene Jaimes, is here. Former Academic Senate President Michael Wiley is here. I'd like to thank both of them for being here and supporting me today. I'd also like to thank my fiance, Pablo, who is also here. He's in the back. He's the cute one. We're getting married in October, and he's put up with a lot from me, like a lot. 14-hour work days, driving hundreds of miles a week to go to this school. He's been very, very patient. But he understands that this is important work that we do, and teaching community college is the only thing I've ever wanted to do since I walked into a community college classroom. So thank you so much for this honor. It's amazing. Thank you.
So we're going to take photos with the four the board winner, the award winners, and then we're going to take a break. So those of you who aren't in the pictures can cruise around, and we'll reconvene.
Right. President Epstein,
Yeah.
I just wanted to acknowledge and thank Executive Director for the Foundation for the Community Colleges, Keitha Mills. These awards come from the foundation.
Thank you.
We're really grateful for the support. Thank you.
Okay, and we'll reconvene in 3:20, 3:25 range.